our receivers. And that's a big thing that everyone's talking about. Will the Chiefs be able to upgrade receivers going to trade deadline? Yesterday, and we had I talked about trades the other day, and I didn't think I don't think we're going to trade for a receiver. I just don't think so. We talked about the way the offense is, how hard it is to learn that playbook coming in the middle of the season, but that changes things if you're bringing in a guy who's already been here before. So the rumor yesterday, apparently the Jets are taking offers for Mecole Hardman, who's really done really nothing for them this year. And the Chiefs are one team that's linked to getting a Mecole Hardman. So, JD, based on the lack of production the receiver rooms have been having, and I do think we're turning a corner here with the young guys this past week, do you think a trade for a receiver makes sense here? And what is your thoughts on bringing back Mecole Hardman? And do you think that can be an impactful difference for our offense, bringing back a guy like Mecole Hardman?
Okay. I'll tell you what, there's two things here. One, and I'll speak just about the young guys, and does it seem like it's something that we should do as far as bringing a receiver with this group? One thing, it has to be the right fit, for one. Number two, do we take the time to develop the young receivers? We give them a little of some space. We see some guys actually started to come out of that whole group, and Rashid Rice and Justin Watson caught a couple of balls last week, and Justin Ross. So we look at the two Justins; they've been doing a good job. And Ross hadn't had a lot of catches. He hadn't had a lot of the playing time, but maybe if he gets a little bit, he gets to show a little bit more of that athletic ability that he has, that they kept talking about. But we've just been, just putting out there how great of a receiver he really is. Something that we didn't have in the room when they said we started the season, of having a guy like that. So now if you're putting in the plans future-wise, put a guy like that on the field, then you should go ahead and do so. Justin Watson's been a great surprise for us. And I think that you have these young guys, and guys are starting to step up. I think you kind of stay with that. If you don't, then you lose the confidence out of that room and saying, well, look, they don't think we can do it. They feel like we need some help. We need to get guys in here. So that could really hurt their confidence. That could really do something to that entire group in itself. But also, too, man, competition is good. Sometimes when, if you're looking at receiver-wise in any group, and the guys not been getting it done in that room, what you do is bring in more competition. And it's like, okay, everybody's head's on the chopping block. I don't care who you are, who you thought you were, first rounder, second rounder. We signed you to, big money. But we'll let you know we get rid of you. Get somebody else in here who's going to be productive. Now, going to the Mecole Hardman question. Okay, I'm going to deal with that. To me, bringing Mecole Hardman back is not a bad idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. Okay, and it's just me. I think Mecole, because he was pretty much raised here, cut his teeth here in Kansas City. He knows the system. They know him. It's not like we're bringing somebody in that's just off the street that doesn't know Kansas City, just the environment, the culture, all those things about Andy, Nagy, the coaching staff, everything. He knows it. And the reason he left out of here was because the Chiefs didn't want to deal with a long-term contract, giving him the money that he thought he should have deserved. And look, everybody has to make a choice what they want to do in a decision if they're going to be compensated for what they think they have athletically to another team. He went out there, didn't quite get what he thought he wanted to get. The Jets signed him. Now we see the Jets ain't really utilizing him. They're not using Mecole Hardman up there. And so I don't think it's a bad idea to bring a guy back who actually just left a couple months ago. That's the way I look at it, right? He's been here for years. So he's a Chief. That's what he is. He's a Chiefs in a Jets uniform right now. That's what it is. So bringing something like him back, I think, is not a bad idea. I really don't. Because he played with, half the guys in that room. He played with them. They know him. Patrick knows him real well, right? And so the whole team knows Mecole Hardman real well. So he's not a stranger. So I do like that idea. I really do. And maybe we bring him back like, hey, man, you know what, Mecole? You're home, okay? You had to go out there. You found out you went out there, the grass wasn't green on the other side. Come on back here to Arrowhead GHA Stadium. with your family, with your home, and we'll welcome you back with open arms.
Yeah. Hardman 1 catch for 6 yards in the season so far. So he's not being utilized at all. I'm seeing some comments in here. M. Hepler, 25. Hardman and Mahomes had no chemistry for 4 years, so I'd pass. What do you think about that?
I disagree with that. I do. I disagree with that. We see Mecole Hardman come up big for us in the times that we needed him, going on the Super Bowl stretch. And it was things because we had other guys here, right? Tyreek and others, and Travis were the guys. And so Mecole tried to fit in. Matter of fact, he started, kind of coming in a little bit on his own with some of the reverses. Because he got a bigger role, we took him away from being a punt returner, a kickoff returner. And then, maybe that's another position that we could put him back in to fill that void as well. But I think, man, Mecole, he showed a lot of flashes of things that he was able to do and able to do really well. He can come in and help us do that. He can come in, stretch the field because he's got speed. We understand that. He understands the system. There were some things that, maybe him and Mahomes weren't on the same page. But it's not worse than what we've seen so far in the season with these young guys, right? I would say even, matter of fact, he's further along than some of the younger guys are that we thought we were going to get out of them. Maybe like a Sky Moore, maybe like an MVS. And so we got to kind of look at that, right? Is he further along than some of the other guys that's in the room? And I think he is. I think he has better chemistry than some other guys that's actually there with the Chiefs right now. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind bringing back Mecole. I don't think we're going to make a move. I mean, if you look at Andy Reid's history, he doesn't really do any trades during the trade deadline. I think the Kadarius Toney was the only time I think he's done a trade in midst of season. But I think Mecole Hardman would be great as far as bringing a guy in who already knows the system, because we talked about the playbook. It's a tough playbook to grasp. He's already been here around, so he knows, what's going on. And also, I don't think it's going to hinder. Some people talk about it hindering the progression of a Rashee Rice or Justin Ross. Hardman doesn't play the positions those guys play. He won't be taking reps from those guys. Maybe he could be taking reps from maybe Sky Moore or maybe some Kadarius Toney reps. But I don't think he's going to hinder the two young guys we have, the Rashee Rice and Ross, young guys. I don't think it's going to hinder their progression at all. What do you say about that?
No, I mean I don't either. I think if anything, it like you said, it might be Sky Moore, it might be MVS's. Shoot, it may even they think like, look, we're looking to get more out of Justin Watson, maybe at 2. But there is a point and people make great points about this, right? And you always want to look at it from all the angles, all the sides whatsoever. And I said this. I said the room's going to get better with Kadarius Toney. Thank you for him coming back, because he showed flashes of what he can do. Just being healthy. And all of a sudden he limps off on the sideline because he had like a little tweak. I think we've seen him, he kind of bent his leg. And I'm just like, come on, man, this can't happen again, right? And so, you're looking for consistency. And I know they talked about maybe Mecole Hardman, him being hurt, but he didn't really have, too bad of an injury. He got hurt, was it last year that he had the one injury that kind of kept him out. And that was like really his one major one that he had. But, chemistry-wise, man, I don't know. I wouldn't really say so. Kadarius played with him last year. MVS played with him last year. Justin Watson played with him last year. Sky Moore played with him last year. Justin Ross was there in the building with him. The only new guy that's there is Rashee Rice, and Richie James that didn't play with him. So I don't think that would necessarily uproot the whole chemistry. Could be. But I do. And look, I'm gonna say this. I do like the guys that's in the group. I do like the guys that's in the building. I'm fine with keeping the guys that we got. I'm fine with it. I'm always a huge guy about developing guys, and I think that we're there. Sometimes when we have these conversations, sometimes we think they're not as fast as we want them to be, right? And we understand it's a process to get these guys there because they're so young, they're so green. It is a process. But then all of a sudden you have some people, we need to get a guy in here. They're not developing fast enough. Well, shoot, we know Patrick's not going to have a number one right now. The number one guy at this moment we're looking at is Justin Watson, Rashee Rice showing up, and that's who we have. And Kadarius Toney, that's it. That's what we're looking for. So you got to pick and choose. What side are you going to be on? You going to have patience to let the guys develop, or are you going to pull the gun and say, bring somebody else back? My thing was, and I made a point, like Mecole Hardman, I don't think it's a bad idea because of his name. And then I actually put out something that I said, if we're going to look for somebody, you look for somebody who's in the same system as yourself, right? I said, if you do make a trade for a wide receiver, I wouldn't mind getting one of those wide receivers that's in the Commanders, Washington Commanders receivers. One of those three. Because Bieniemy's had those guys. Bieniemy's going to keep them, hold them up to a high standard. We've seen that. He had to get that up out of them. I had to let them know what's going on, what's desired of you. And so I think one of those three guys, right? I'm talking about McLaurin, Dodson. I don't think they get rid of them. Curtis Samuel, right, is a guy. Okay, yeah. His contract's looks a little bit like MVS's. Just kind of looking at. So I don't know, man. That would be my thing if you do anything with the wide receiver room. But I do like the guys that we have, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah, and talking about the guys that we have, I've seen a combination of things in here. Someone said bringing in someone else as they view as a possible threat may take away confidence from the room. That's from D Hall 94, which I could see that. But then my thing is, before we make a trade, I think everyone's saying we need a receiver. Rashee Rice, who's been by far the most productive receiver we have, I think PFF has him as the 11th highest rated receiver overall. This guy is coming off a game where he only played 30% of the snaps. For Justin Ross, he makes one of the biggest catches of the game. He gets pulled out right after that, and he only plays 5 more snaps for the rest of the game. Yeah, he had 2 drops, but he's finally actually getting targeted a little bit and actually getting game action. I think I want to see a little bit more from these guys before we say, hey, screw it, let's go get a receiver. Let's go get somebody else. And I think we haven't really seen enough of these guys. And for whatever reason, they're bringing them along slowly. They each had a plan at the beginning of the season to bring on Ross and Rice, seeing them more towards the second half of the season. So I want to see a little bit more of what we have from those guys before we make a move. And I think making a move like a guy like Curtis Samuel or like a guy like Mecole Hardman, that's not going to hinder their progression at all. And I think that wouldn't be a bad move. But I think I've seen people talk about bringing in Mike Evans. It's like, first off, that's not going to happen. Secondly, we don't like to pay up guys, and Mike Evans wants to get paid in the offseason. So, I don't know what our cap situation is going to be next year. So, I think hindering those guys' progression is bringing in a guy like that, and that's going to take away the reps.
Yeah, I think it's a value argument. I really do. Curtis Samuel is a guy that can fit in. Mecole Hardman is another guy that can fit in, especially if they're not getting the lion's share of the passes, of the catches, right? Rashee Rice definitely needs to get a little bit more action than he's getting. Justin Ross, the same thing. So this week is a good week to find that out, okay? If you want that experiment and say, listen, you know what? And I'm sure Andy and those guys are sitting back here. And I know this just sitting in offensive rooms as coaches. This guy right here has been showing that he can catch the football. He can go out here and can play. He can block. Rashee Rice can't block defensive ends. He can block linebackers and corners. He tried to hit Justin Johnson in the side against the Jets and got totally thrown. He didn't know what to do. But those guys definitely give them a little bit more time. I would say put them in now. This is what we need to find out. Put them in right now, especially against this game, especially against a defense that's been giving up a whole lot of yards, a whole lot of points. Why not utilize these guys against that defense right now? So it's a good argument. I don't doubt that whatsoever.
JD, you've talked before on our podcast, and again, for those of you guys, first-time listeners, I'm seeing some people out there, first-time listeners, on Chief Concerns. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. JD, you talked about when you were a free agent, you took visits to division rivals, the Raiders. I don't know if you ever took any visits to Denver or you ever talked to them, but talk to me about the aspect of division rivals helping division rivals out as far as, because you say Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, they're fielding calls. What are the chances Denver's going to want to make a deal with us in trading a Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton? What is that? Is there kind of a thing where they will trade him if it's a good enough offer, or screw that. We're not going to trade Jerry Jeudy to our division rival.
If you know that your most capable guys on offense, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, is the guys that has been at least the better of what you've been doing offensively, you definitely won't give it to a division rival. You just don't want to do that, right? Because you know what the guy's got. And so I guess it could be 2 thought processes there. It's like, well, shoot, we know what he's got. That's why we're giving him away. Let him go over and be your problem, right? So I don't know. To me, I know how hard it is to go to a division rivalry. It's just hard. It's hard for the player in itself unless you're not getting treated correctly. And so I went to Oakland, courted me. They was talking about all the things that I wasn't getting at the Chiefs. You know, that's what they do. They wine you, dine you, take all the things they're going to do with you, right? And so that was something that is always, is very, appetizing to a player, right? If you utilize more. And when you're going to a more quality quarterback than you would get with Russell Wilson going to go see Patrick Mahomes. Who don't want to go play with the best quarterback in the NFL, right? But I know teams really don't want to do that. They really don't want to do that. Unless the guy's just a head case and a problem, then they like, look, I'd rather you go there. Yeah, let's chop him over. Let's hand him over. He's right here on a silver platter to go to you. I don't think that's the case here. So it'd be hard for them to go. I don't think they want to see the Chiefs, because that's a thorn in their side. They just don't want to see. They don't want to see that.
Yeah, and we know Jerry Jeudy, first round pick him. He's got a lot of potential, and we've seen flashes of that potential. That'd be unreal.
But the talent is one thing, but it is about culture. It's about guys fitting in to what you can do, and you can get those guys ready. But it's got to be the right fit. Some guys you're like, hey man, I don't know if this guy has the right temperament or whatnot to be in this building, to be in this room. That's a real thing. It is. It's a real thing. And they seek these guys out. They got to find out who guys are before they get there. And sometimes it don't take, another team talking about you. It has to be somebody else that kind of have known that guy for a while to make somewhat of an objective, opinion about what's going on or who a guy really is. So,
yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't think we're going to make a move at all at the deadline, but seeing all these receivers' names pop up, and that's something that, has been a hot topic for us and every other Chiefs show out there. So,
hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.